Beyond San Andreas off California, these are the 5 scariest fault lines in the United States, and some of them we don't even know about. For example, what's on the eastern United States. If you see a couple of videos before this one, we're talking about the carbon monoxide gas release and what is going on there from satellite images over the eastern United States. So beyond San Andreas, 5 zones are just as scary as the San Andreas Fault, if not more so. Contrary to popular belief, this is not the only fault system threatening imminent disaster. Number 1, the Cascadia subduction zone. By the time Lewis and Clark arrived in the West Coast in 1805, it had been 105 years since the Cascadia subduction zone last ruptured, sending a large portion of the Pacific Ocean roaring towards the coast. The few remaining Native Americans in the area spoke of the earth shaking and ocean rising to consume the land. Many tribes even left the region permanently. However, it was not until the discovery of the Cascadia Fault in the 1960s that modern settlers truly understood the dangers they faced. It runs 680 miles along the Pacific Northwest coastline. The Cascadia Fault directly threatens 3 major metropolitan areas, Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, with Cascadia capable of producing magnitude 9 or even magnitude 10 earthquake. The Pacific Northwest may soon face shaking 16 times more powerful than the devastating San Francisco 1906 earthquake, lasting 4 minutes and delivering a major tsunami of unimaginable proportions. Let's remember that Cascadia, we have recent earthquakes in the Blanco fracture zone and Mendocino fracture zone, and of course all these high threat volcanoes. Mount St. Helens and Mount Shasta have been having tremendous amount of activity lately. From what we have on PNSN, Mount Hood earthquakes have had an interesting uptick in the last 30 days, 46 earthquakes, most of them in the past 2 weeks. Mount St. Helens, 38 earthquakes in the past 30 days. Mount Rainier, 9 earthquakes in the past 30 days. Newbury, 22 earthquakes in the past 30 days. So we do have a lot of activity there. The most, of course, is from, unfortunately, Mount Hood, 46, Mount St. Helens, 38. Now, concerning the Madrid seismic zone on the in the middle of the United States, remember that this is in the area under the Great Lakes, and the Great Lakes does have a mantle plume, and nobody knows, the geologists don't know where that mantle plume is coming from, but it's been there about 1 billion years. So the New Madrid seismic zone, which is actually should be called the New Madrid Rift Valley, it's not just the West Coast that needs to watch out for tectonic obliteration. The New Madrid seismic zone spans southeastern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and southern Illinois. It's the most active earthquake zone east of the Rocky Mountains. Between 1811 and 1812, this zone experienced some of the largest quakes in history, and although they originated in the Mississippi Valley, they rang church bells in Boston and shook New York City over 1,000 miles away. Even then, President James Madison and his wife Dolly reportedly felt shaking at the White House. After one particularly large rupture in the fault, the mighty Mississippi River was forced to run backwards for several hours, devastating acres of forest, and created 2 temporary waterfalls. Fortunately, the Mississippi River Valley was sparsely populated back then. Today, millions of people live in densely populated urban areas like St. Louis and Memphis, making this zone one of the biggest concerns for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. And number 3 is the Ramapo seismic fault in the area of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, upstate New York. And this is the fault line right here. In 1884, Brooklyn was rattled by an earthquake originating near the Ramapo Fault system. It toppled chimneys in New York City and was felt as far away as Maine and Virginia. The magnitude they estimated being 5.2 earthquake was a sudden wake-up call for settlers in the region. Running through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, the Ramapo has remained quiet for about 200 years, while studies have shown that a quake greater than 5 or 5.5 in magnitude is unlikely. Urbanization in the tri-state region leaves the area extremely vulnerable. A mid-magnitude earthquake in the right or worse place could cause devastating damage. One of the faults in the Ramapo system even crosses New York City around 125th Street. A magnitude 5 rupture lasting more than 2 minutes or could cause intense structural damage to numerous Manhattan skyscrapers, most of which are not designed to withstand such tectonic activity. And next we have the Hayward Fault. This very unstable fault in California has been threatening the San Francisco Bay Area for generations. It's capable of producing quakes ranging from 7 to 8 in magnitude, and the last major movement along Hayward occurred about 1868, October 21st, virtually destroying downtown Hayward. In fact, it was considered the great earthquake until the San Andreas Fault tore San Francisco apart 38 years later. Running for nearly 74 miles through cities including Fremont, Hayward, Oakland, Berkeley, and Richmond, the Hayward Fault has a potential to wreak more havoc than most Californian faults. Over 2.5 million people live within close proximity of this fault today, not to mention the key infrastructure developments, including a major public transport system and the Caldecott Tunnel that run precariously through the fault. And then we have the Alaska Great Denali Fault System. And this is the geophysical union image of it. The Denali Fault System, if we're talking sheer magnitude, the largest recorded earthquakes in North America soil hit Alaska November 3rd, 2002, starting on the Susitna Glacier Thrust Fault. The rupture raced along the Denali Fault System and continued 220 kilometers until it reached the Tachunda Fault, rattling 70 more kilometers. The estimated magnitude of this earthquake ranged from 7 to 7.9 magnitude, with a surface wave magnitude of close to 8.5 magnitude. This almighty earthquake caused extensive damage to the transportation system in central Alaska. Multiple landslides and rock avalanches occurred in the Alaska Range and Black Rapids Glacier. This event was literally felt across the nation, even causing waves in pools and lakes all the way down to Texas and Louisiana. And this is from Bennett Reality. Just a recap of the 5 most dangerous, scariest faults in the United States. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.